He's connected.
Tardy as usual. You know, I thought we were going to talk.
Yeah, he's been here. He's been here for 5 minutes, and you had to go.
He has not been here for 5 minutes.
He had. John, how long you been in the waiting room waiting for us?
It feels like 15 minutes, 20 minutes waiting on Goodman's ass. You know, it just triple it. Whatever it actually was, just triple it.
All right, John. So my tweet went out earlier today, and it was Memphis is back. Capital letters BACK. I know you have trouble reading sometimes, so BACK means back. And they had a huge win today in Wichita without Emoni Bates, without Alo. Their starting point guard or backup point guards or any guy who could play the point, and they end up beating the crap out of Wichita at the Roundhouse. Really impressive win, and I was a little sarcastic. No, I was a lot sarcastic.
Yeah, I mean, why are you like this? You know, why are you the way that you are?
I don't know. I don't have an
answer.
A
lot of people, right? A lot of people on this call know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of people watching, they want to like you, you know? You bring something to the table, but then you tweet things like that. You know, and your first take stuff. I mean, you've been a real ass about Memphis all year long. Even when they do things the right way, even when they do well, this is the kind of response they get from you. You know it's wrong. You know it's wrong.
Listen, I think they are back only because I think they have a chance to win the AAC, which might be the worst league in the history of Power 7, 6.5. I don't know what you want to call it, because they're not in the top 6, and only because Houston's lost their best 2 scorers. I think it opens it up. I really do. And the big question I have for you, John, here's the $1 million question. Are they better? Are they better without Emoni Bates and Alo? And can they sustain this? Is this the best way for Memphis and Penny Hardaway to win games in the AAC?
Well, I mean, I think the answer is that they are at their best with a solidified and shortened rotation, right? One of the real hamstrings for Memphis basketball, if you've watched them under Penny Hardaway, is he has been unwilling over the years, unless he's forced via injury or transfer or James Wiseman quitting the team. He's been unwilling to commit, right, to a 5, 6, 7, 8-man rotation. You know, he's got this sort of addiction to playing too many guys, even when it's going well, right? Even when things are going well, he's got like this trigger finger to substitute. And I don't know where that comes in. I don't know if that's just a result of high school coaching or, you know, Team Penny over the years. You know, so I don't know if it's so much about, oh, this team is better without Emoni Bates. This team is better without Alo. Alo, we can have a different conversation about, because we've seen 4 years of him, and we have a little bit more in terms of a body of work. But I think what is very clear is that when Penny is sort of not left to his own devices and guys aren't playing because of injury or whatever the case may be, and he's sort of forced to go roll with 6, 7 guys, it's how they made their NCAA tournament. It fell short, right? But it's how they made their tournament run last year. And it's really been, whether it's Alabama, second half of Alabama, now you're going to come on here and you're going to try to trash Alabama win now, right? But I'm pretty sure they beat Tennessee the other night. That was a pretty good win. They
listen.
Playing a second.
Well, but they have lost to Georgia. They have lost to Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah.
They have lost to Murray State. They have lost to Tulane. There's enough there, ammunition for us to kill Penny.
Oh, no, I agree.
And I love Penny. We've talked about this. I really like Penny as a human being. I thought bringing in Larry Brown, the guru of all gurus, right? Like, people are like, he's the greatest coach in the history of college basketball. He only got 8 programs on probation, but let's bring him in. Who cares? He's going to solve everything.
Yeah. I compare, and I know you haven't had many of these over the years, but I compare Memphis basketball to being in a relationship with a crazy girl. Okay? Like, and what I mean is, and again, I know you probably haven't experienced many of these. The highs are unbelievably high, right? But the lows are so low. And it's like, you got to get out of it at some point.
Hey, John, I don't mean to interrupt you. Would you compare the low to that night when your wife had to escort you out of the club in Vegas after 2 beers?
I would,
because you're on the floor.
Remember that. if I
Remember, you were
remember.
on the floor?
I was
Passed out?
blackout after 2 Michelobs.
Pretty much.
So yes, that was a low point, no doubt.
Hey, John, I got to ask you a question, man. Like when Penny went nuts a couple of weeks ago saying all our locker room's bad, do you think there was anything where the anger was a little bit misplaced? Because when I first heard it, he's like, well, our older guys, they're not being like, if I was an older guy, I'd been a little upset because we just made it to the NIT. We just won the NIT. We come back, we bring in 2 dudes real late in the summer. They don't have a whole lot of time to adjust. And now we're just force feeding them. Was there a sense a little bit where, hey, is this anger misplaced a little bit? Because that's kind of was my first thought right away.
Yeah, and he did it multiple times. He did it back-to-back games. That's only a card you can play one time, A. And B, it was almost like he was trying to absolve himself of the responsibility in the situation, right? By putting it on the older guys. Oh, they're supposed to know what we do. They're supposed to have X, Y, and Z. But you're the coach in the end. You're responsible. So if they're not enacting or putting out a culture or a style of play that you're not happy with, in the end, you're the coach and you're responsible for who plays. So that's the thing. In college basketball, there's no running from responsibility when you're the head coach. And Josh did it a lot when he was here at Memphis too. Josh Pastner. But you don't get to just remove yourself, right? You're the coach and you're responsible. The other dynamic that was going on there too was protecting Emoni and trying to, I guess just get out of him whatever he thinks he can. I think he sees a lot of himself in Emoni Bates as just sort of this prodigy who was crowned at such a young age. And, this was a month back. Now I don't really know what Emoni's role on this team is, but at that point he was just trying to protect him really. But you do so, and you did so at the risk of alienating the guys who've actually, earned those scars and helped you, get to where you might ultimately go. So it was a risky move. I don't know if it paid off. They picked up some big wins since then, but at that time it really felt shaky, no doubt.
I think the biggest thing, John, you mentioned Emoni's role. And I think the most important thing is finding a specific role for him. You can't build.
Just score.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. You can't build an offense around a 17-year-old that weighs 180 pounds that is supposed to be a senior in high school. It's just not going to work. And look, the AAC may not be great. That is going to be a very difficult thing to do in the AAC. Even if Emoni Bates was Kevin Durant, like what we all thought he was going to end up being, or we all said he was going to end up being. That's a very difficult thing to do for a 17-year-old. So I think finding a way to kind of ease him in, get his confidence going, let him figure things out a little bit, let him figure out what the hell he's doing on the defensive end of the floor so he's not a liability there, right?
Yep.
Or ease him in. I think that was the biggest issue, is that they just kind of threw it to him and let him go out and rock like it was Bates fundamental, instead of the fact that this was Memphis and he needed to be a piece before he became the guy. You can't walk in and be the guy. You're 17 years old. How old is DeAndre Williams? He's got to be
25.
Yeah, you got to do this. 8 years older than him, and he's going to listen to this senior come in. That's not going to. So I think that was the miscalculation there.
Well, yeah, and I also think it was a child of not having an answer at point guard too, right? Mm-hmm. That Penny was like, all right, well, Alo's not the answer. We had to rework Earl Timberlake's jump shot. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. Here comes Emoni, a guy who certainly seems capable. So I think Penny looked at Emoni as just this emergency last resort option where, I can put the ball in his hands, make him happy, and also maybe solve my point. I don't need him to be John Stockton. I just need him to be a competent ball handler. But what we learned, in the first 5-6 games is that he's just simply, it's too much. They asked too much of him. And they asked him to do things that he's really never, he can play make in context, right? But nothing about Emoni Bates ever said, he's going to be a point guard in the National Basketball Association. Like nobody ever said, it was not going to be his future was going to be score, And I think Penny was trying to ask him to be other things.
He hasn't had a point guard to make his life easier as a 17-year-old freshman who is built to score. What do you need? You need somebody to make your life easier, to set you up. And again, he's 17. He's 185 pounds. He's now hurt. with a finger injury.
Yeah.
And when he comes back, maybe there'll be a little less pressure on him. I don't know. My big question to you, John, now is scale of 1 to 10 right now. What is the support? 10 being the most for Penny Hardaway in Memphis, in your opinion?
I would say it's a 6 right now. I mean, when you're the legend that is Penny Hardaway in the city of Memphis, I mean, it's a communal place, right? Like, I mean, and you've been here enough and you sort of know the dynamics of this city. I mean, we take care of our own, right? There's something about being from Memphis. And so I think you just have that sort of banked in, right? And it's quite frankly why he got hired. He got hired, yes, because he had a name. He got hired, yes, because he could recruit and he had ties to players. But he really got hired because the administration knew that when he got the job, people were going to come back to the building to support him and to support that team. I mean, they were coming off, the last couple of years of your boy Josh Pastner, the Tubby Smith tenure. People stopped coming. The passion was dying out. And so they realized that to tap into that, they got to go back to one of their own. And there's probably nobody in this community. Maybe John Morant gets there someday, right? But there's nobody in this community right now that is as meaningful to the sports sort of, firmament that Penny Hardaway is. And so I think he's going to have patience. He's going to have a leash that Tubby wouldn't have and didn't have, that Josh wouldn't have had. But I also think if you're him, now is the time to demonstrate whether or not you're going to be able to take this thing back to where you promised you would. It's now, because
obviously, because if he can't do it with this group, if he can't do it with this mixture, does he deserve to be the head coach? And I know, again, he's making enough money. You're probably not going to fire him, but it could be a Patrick Ewing situation where you sit down with him if you're the administration and say, hey, you know what? This isn't really working. What do you think? Do you want to just say, hey, let's mutually agree to part ways? Do you feel like that could happen at the end of the year if this thing goes in the direction where it was heading before today?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's when you're dealing with such a unique. He's a celebrity, right? Like he doesn't need to coach Memphis basketball to make a living. He's got a lifetime Nike deal. Like he's fine. This is about him wanting to sort of, bring back Memphis to prominence and his own legacy. I think at some point, one of the saving graces for Memphis basketball and Penny Hardaway, and it's a credit to him, is the fact that he's been able to get guys like Precious Achiuwa, James Wiseman, Jalen Duren, Emoni Bates, right? They were in there on Jalen. They were going to get Jalen Green most likely before the G League thing happened. What you wonder is if you don't cash in on all those guys that have come through and you don't, and even just making the tournament's not really enough, right? Like if you're not playing in the Sweet 16, if you're not playing the Elite Eight, how long can you continue to expect to get guys like that when the book is starting to get out on you, right? Like, oh, go to Memphis where, if you're, a top 5, top 10, lottery pick, you might end up not even playing in December and January, and you're not going to play in the NCAA tournament. You're going to have 5 losses by January every single year, and you're going to fall out of the top 25 unceremoniously. These are things that start to work against you. Penny has done a great job of maximizing his name and his brand and everything in between to get the kind of kids that he's gotten. But at some point, that pixie dust does run out. And so I think if you get to a point to where, Memphis can't shake this bipolar volatility that they've been playing with this year, if they don't equate that into a tournament appearance this year, I think Penny has to sit down and have a really long look at his life and take stock. Is this going where I thought it would go? Can it go where I thought it would go? Going into year 5, no tournaments to show for it. So I think today you're feeling better, right? But again, let's have this conversation a week from now. They may lose to Tulsa again. So that's the Memphis basketball experience right now.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, listen, John Martin, 92.9 in Memphis, the guy who honestly is carried by his co-host,
Absolutely.
Smith,
you would understand that very well.
I do know it well. I do know it well. Thanks for joining us, my man, and hopefully we'll do it again. for better
Yeah.
or worse.
Yeah.
The good thing is people like talking about Memphis, and hopefully they get it turned around so you can be relevant again.
That's right, man. Appreciate you. All right, boys. Thanks.